for. Hey y'all, it's Dr. Kre. Can you hear me? I am getting a message that my connection is poor. It is Dr. Kre, and this is our new time for Dr. Kre and me. Let me check my connection here right before we get started, okay? Hey, it's Dr. Kre. Can you hear me? Hey, Pam. How are you doing? How's everybody doing this week? When you get here, let me know you're here. Let me know where you're watching from. This is the new time for the Dr. Kre Me Show. It will be on the every other Tuesday in the month at 6:30. So it's a new time. Um, can you hear me now? Am I still breaking up? Let me know if I'm still breaking up before I get started. It is 6:31 on Tuesday. Can you hear me? Okay. I got my hotspot on. It's better. Okay, I had to kind of check some things. So, March, if you don't know, is Mental Health Awareness Month. And I think it's very important. I think it's very important for us to talk about mental health, even though a lot of people do not like the idea of talking about mental health, but it is something serious. And even though we don't think about grief as being something that we should be concerned about, as far as our mental health goes, that's what we're going to talk about tonight. How to deal with grief during the holidays. Hey, Ursula, we have Mother's Day coming up around, and I just wanted to kind of love on you guys a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and get started. You know who I am. I'm Dr. Kre. I'm your board certified family medicine physician, and I specialize in what's important to you through my one-on-one coaching that I do, through my telehealth visits, my awesome practice at Brownstone here in Birmingham, Alabama, through my talks like this show to help you live healthier, happier, whole lives. So this is going to be a show tonight that is touching. I want you guys to think about some things because this is a week leading up to Mother's Day. And I'm not sure how many of you guys still have a mother that is alive at this point or not, or a loved one. This doesn't have to be your mother that you're grieving during this time. It can be any loved one. So I wanted to talk about that. Hey, Ursula. Say hello. I pray all is well. Miss Lockett, you can call the office. It's 205-202-5650. I'm going to get started. So the first thing that we deal with when we talk about grief, number one is going to be denial and isolation. So can somebody type that for me? Denial and isolation. It's one of the first things that happen when you get that call that your family member has died unexpectedly, or it could be an expected death. Okay, it could be something that's expected, but even though it's expected, it's still tough. You know, after you've lived 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, even more with someone, to hear that they're no longer going to be there can be pretty hard. So no, number one is denial and isolation. So the first thing you have to realize that if you are not the person that's grieving, but you're dealing with a loved one, a family member, a spouse, or anyone that is grieving, and you're like, well, that happened 3 years ago. You shouldn't still be sad about that. That is the wrong thing to say. Let's practice on things not to say. Do not say that, because grief has no time limit. I know that in a lot of books, they say things like, oh, you should go through all the steps of grieving. Hey, Montez, you should go through all the steps of grieving. Oh, and it should take you about 12 months. Well, if you've been with somebody for 50 years of your life, and you've been married to them for 40 years, or even married for 50 years, you think you're going to get over that in about 12 months? I just don't think so. So they'll start doing things and having grief and kind of isolating themselves. But grief is not depression. Let's be clear on that. A grieving person is not depression. We know we talked early in some of the earlier shows about the signs of depression. You will have some overlapping, but isolation, denial, I don't want to believe it. You may pick up the phone several times to try and call your loved ones and remember, oh my goodness, I can't call that number anymore. It doesn't work. You may do things like, just kind of reminiscing, going back through the pictures in the phone, going back through the text messages, going back during all of that. You do that during that kind of denial period because you're trying to hold on as much as we can. So number one is denial and isolation. Number two is anger. Hey, Kristen. Number two is anger. The next natural reaction. Now, in a day, you may have all these emotions in one day. You're like, well, oh my gosh. It's not like you go through these different stages. One week, we're going to be having denial and isolation. Oh, the next week, we're going to be having some anger. No, you can have a ton of these issues or feelings all in one day. So you're angry because you're mad because you're like, well, why did they have to die unexpectedly of a heart attack? Why did they have to die from their stroke? Why did they have to die in a car accident? Whatever it is, you have so many questions. So many questions of why did this have to happen to my loved one? Or why did this have to happen to my friend? And you also may have questions that you would have liked to ask them. So, man, I should have asked her more questions about how her day was, or more about what her life goals were, more about what he wanted to be when he grew up, or whatever it is. We have so much. We start to build resentment, and that anger is to one could be to that person that has died, and it also could be to God or whoever your supreme being is. I'm a Christian. I believe in God. So I'm like, sometimes you have that issue where you're just like, well, God, why did you have to do this? They were in church every day. They did all the right things. They weren't out there doing all the bad things. So why did you have to take them all too soon? These are necessary. Video has frozen. Oh my gosh, sorry. Am I still frozen? Still frozen? What's going on with my can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you? I need to change my connection. Am I still frozen, y'all? Let's see. Am I still frozen now? Can you hear me though? No, you're not frozen. Okay, I'm back. So did you guys hear? I don't know what you last heard because I've really been talking, but I was still on number two. Hey Georgina, how you doing? Hey Carnisha, thank you guys for tuning in. So if you just tuned in and I was frozen like Elsa, sorry, I'm back. Hey Sharika, we were talking about grief and how this is that time of the year. If you're suffering loss of a parent, a loss of a child, loss of a friend, it's during these times, the holidays, that make it so hard. Make it so terribly hard. Even if that, oh, I never froze. Okay, I'm sorry. So back to the points. Number one was denial and isolation. So we go into this hermit crab state. Don't really want to be bothered because I don't want everyone asking me how I'm doing, how I'm feeling. Number two is anger. And who are we angry at? Are we angry at God for doing this? Are we angry at our friend, our family member for being like, okay, I'm going to just go and make this transition? Or are we angry at ourselves for things that we left undone, things that we left unsaid, things that we just kind of left undone? So you have to be mindful of that. And if you have, I was saying, I'm not sure that the last thing I said was, I'm a Christian and I believe in God, but whoever your supreme person is, you go through that. Those are natural feelings. Those are natural feelings. And the sad thing is that I know growing up in Christian churches, it's like, you're not supposed to question God. You're not supposed to say this. You're not supposed to say that. But know that having hurt and resentment and anger is definitely a common feeling and a common sign that you will have if you're grieving the loss of a loved one. Number three, bargaining. Like, oh my gosh, why did you have to take this child from me? You could have taken me. I lived my whole life. That's what bargaining is. Somebody type that in there, bargaining. So with bargaining, you could have took me, or why didn't you take the drunk on the street, or whatever. You're finding a lot of ways to try and say, well, you did not necessarily have to take my loved one. You could have taken this one. You could have taken the dog. You could have taken whoever it is. So be mindful that if you're having those feelings, and it's been 10 months, 12 months, 13 months, a year, 2 years since your loved one has died, then bargaining is something that you definitely go through. Number one, we isolate ourselves. We are just in denial. Number two, anger. Number three, you're bargaining. You're like, well, what if I had done this right? Was it my guilt? Like, especially growing up in church, you're like, well, what was it that I did? Did I do something that caused this to happen to my family member? Did I do something that oh, something is maybe going on with Facebook. She just sent me a message and said it shut her out, saying that an error occurred. But so I really am not sure how much of this you guys are hearing. I'm gonna keep talking, and if I need to redo this over again, please let me know. So number one is denial and isolation. Number two is anger. Number three is bargaining. I'm still seeing you guys' comments come up on the screen, and I see that it's 8 people here actually live. So if you cannot see me, hear me, and you don't know anything, whatever, just put it here and I'll know to redo it. So number 4, we're doing 5. Number 4 is depression. So remember I said there are some times that depression and grief mix over, but grief does not necessarily mean depression. So you can have depressed symptoms. Depressed symptoms are sleeping too much, lack of interest, guilty, no energy, no appetite, not being able to sleep. So we have all of those. You can have all that tied up into one. Depression. So Miss Pam, you can see it good. So okay, so we got denial and isolation. We got anger, we got bargaining, and we got depression. She said, I can see everything and hear everything good on this end. I'm not sure what's happening with Facebook tonight. Because we don't have really good internet connection out here. So I usually use my hotspot. And I never have problems with my hotspot. And I got 4 of my 5 bars on my hotspot. And it's how I've been doing it there all along. So I'm not sure if it's me or where I live or if it's Facebook. So we're talking tonight about what are the symptoms of grief and how to deal with grief during the holidays. We're coming up on Mother's Day soon, and a lot of people are dealing with the loss of a mother, the loss of a friend, the loss of family members, and anytime everybody's getting together, you start thinking about that person. You start telling those old stories. You start, loving on each other a little bit harder because you don't know when the next time you'll see each other. And those are all things that that I encourage. So number 5 is acceptance. So even though there's usually 7 typical stages of grief, number 5 is when you finally accept it. So let's talk about what happens after we come to acceptance. Because just because we're at acceptance doesn't mean that we quit thinking about our friend, thinking about our mom, thinking about our dad, thinking about our sibling, thinking about our dogs, because people go through grieving if something happens to your dogs. You had your dogs for 15 years and you had to put them to sleep, or they had some kind of whatever injury or unexpected accident. You can grieve animals just like you can grieve people. So don't let people talk about you like, oh, why you still in a slump? It was just a dog. No, it was just my dog. Everything's good in Charlotte. Haven't frozen it out. Okay, cool. So sorry if it sounds kind of disconjointed because I'm trying to make sure that you guys are here. So one, we got denial and isolation. So what can you do if your family members had taken a grief or death very, very hard and they are still kind of in denial? They are isolating themselves. Why don't you encourage that person, hey, come on, like, I know you still down. I know you still out. How about we just go on? Let's go over and get something to drink at the coffee shop. Or how about we go out to eat and check on your relatives. Check on each other. Statistically, I find that the person dies. The person may be sick. We checking on each other. We going hard. We checking on each other. Person dies. You may check on the person, a good week after that. And then you go on with your life. But if it's not someone that's in your close circle, they're still dealing with it. The person is still dead. You still have to check on your friends and families. So usually if somebody dies, we're like, we're going to wait about a month before we send our big old fruit basket or before we send some food because it's quiet then. One, they've lived with this person for many years of their life. Then you, hey, Dr. Manny, how you doing? If you live with this person for years and years and years, and now it's just you and your dogs or you and your cats, and that loved one isn't there, it's silent. And after the phone stops blowing up, the church stops calling, people stop sending food the few days after they have died and the funeral is over, people need to be checked on. Check on them. So check on them. So they're isolated. They missed about 3 Sundays of church. And it's been some time since the death has happened. Check on them. Say, hey, what's going on? I missed you at church. I missed you, coming out to our yearly party. I missed you at the fundraiser that you always are. You're the life of the party, and now all of a sudden we don't see you. So we have to be mindful that we have to really check on our families, check on our friends months after it happened, years after it happens, and even at the year anniversary. The anniversary that person died, please check on them. So number two, remember anger. How do we help them with anger? We just listen to them. You let them vent. Every time someone calls you, it does not need to have a whole conversation back and forth. I lost one of my best friends died last year. And a lot of times I don't really just want to have somebody to say, well, this happened and that happened and this is why this happened and the Lord did this. No, just listen to me. I want to tell you all about the crazy stuff we used to do and how we was in cadaver, class together. We did this and we went here, and why did we think we should drive home by ourselves from Illinois to Alabama? You just want somebody to listen to those stories. They may not laugh like you laughing, but you feel better once you get those stories out in the air. Say, hey, I thought about you today. Your friend may be like, oh, I'm having a bad day. I'm really aggravated. I'm just angry at God. I'm angry at everybody just for waking up this morning because I woke up and my friend didn't. So anger is real. It's real to be angry that I was 36 like she was. I'm a doctor just like she was. And a lot of nights I was like, well, why? We were like the same person almost. You know what I'm saying? Like we were born and she was a city girl, I was a country girl, but we both went to Spelman. We both went to Illinois. We both went to DO school here and there. We both came back and married awesome men. And what? So I couldn't help but to look at her story and see myself. Like no other way to look at your own reality. Like, well, this could have been me. And if nothing else, you're like, oh my gosh, thank you, Lord, it wasn't. But then you feel selfish, like, why would I say thank you, Lord, it wasn't? Because it was her. So you have all of these whirlwind of emotions. You have all these roller coaster of ups and downs because you want to talk about the happy times, but you're sad a lot. You're sad a lot. Here we are 16, not even 6, maybe 16, 17 months later. And we're still trying to get to that next. We're still trying to say, well, one day I will not, it just won't cross my mind, but I don't think that it will. So then you get into that bargaining. Bargaining no one else hears maybe. That's your conversation. That's your nighttime conversation. I can't turn my head off. I can't turn my brain off because I'm bargaining with me. Like, well, why was it me? Like I said, that like I have done timeless. And then there's depression. So make sure that you're looking and say, well, hey, you're sleeping more. Or you lost a whole lot of weight. What's going on with you? Are you eating? Are you sleeping? Are you taking care of yourself? Because depression kills. If people get too terribly depressed, they don't come out of their sunken depression. They can kill themselves. They can kill other people. It's real. It's really, 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 really real. So we want to make sure we check on them. We check on them. We check on them. Check on your people. Because we don't know if they're all right. We just don't know. Encourage your family members to go to see their doctor. Go see your doctor. Go get checked out. Make sure there's nothing else that's going on. Make sure. Oh yeah, sure, Dave. And then there's acceptance. Then one day you wake up and it doesn't hurt as much as it did, as much as it did 3 days later or 3 months later or 38 weeks later. One day it won't hurt as bad, but it will still hurt. So don't feel bad in that regard. Don't feel like this is something that you can't share with other people because people won't understand. People maybe understand. Everybody's experienced some kind of hurt, some kind of loss, some kind of, you never get over the loss of a child. You never get over the loss of a spouse. We can insert anybody, anything. Like you said, a dog. You never get over that. I got a 13-year-old Shih Tzu here. I'm just gonna let y'all know. Whenever something happened to her, I'm taking off. I'm just taking off. She's been with me a lot of years. And she's an old hateful lady. But she's my dog. She's been with me for 13 years. She knows all my secrets. I think she understands me when I talk. I yell a certain way and she knows how to move a certain way. So, so don't feel bad about that. Don't feel bad that you're like, I need a moment. I need a minute. I got to get up. I got to get myself together. But do not be rushed in your time of grief. Now, if you're not able to, months pass, we still can't get up. We still not able to get dressed. We still can't get to work, we still can't do anything, and there's been quite a bit of time to pass, then yes, see your doctor. You may need an antidepressant. You may need something to help you sleep. You may need something for anxiety. Get some help. If you hear nothing other than that, get help. Grief is real. Grief hurts. Losing hurts. No one likes to lose. No one. I mean, and as a resident, we did all of the death pronouncements in the hospital as an intern. Well, about the seventh time, I was used to people dying. I knew what happened when people died. I knew how to just just come up with the right words, because I said the same thing. I meant what I was saying, but I said the same thing. I'm so sorry for your loss. I really, really am. I didn't participate in your loved one's care, but I'm sure they got the best possible care here at this hospital. Though we've done everything we can do, there's nothing further that we can do at this point. I leave you in the capable hands of the nurses. Well, you have to kind of get in some kind of mind, because you never know what you're going to go up in there in. People handle death and grief a lot of different ways. And about the 25th time, my mama was like, I think you're kind of getting, you're not, you're just numb to death. People die or people get sick. And I was always trying to get them a DNR or whatever the sheet design or advanced directive, because I'm going to be the one making all those decisions. I'm going to be the one that's like, well, he want this, or he want that, or she want that, or, do this for them. No, I want you to make your own decisions so I can be very informed and I can grieve properly, because I won't be able to start grieving until I make sure everything's taken care of. So my advice to you guys is, if you do not have an advance directive, have one. Have an advance directive. Get an advance directive. Get a power of attorney. Get a will. Get a will. Because people just get a will. That's a whole nother talk. Have you done a topic for stress? I have done one for the last year, Carnisha. I did one weekly up until somebody texted me and it threw me off. I've done one for every week for the last year. So glance back through them. I think I've done one on stress, because I talked about the signs and symptoms of stress and how stress can make you sick. I'm pretty sure of that. So look back through the videos. I'll see you guys on two Tuesdays. So not the Tuesday we're about to have, but the week after that. I hope you have a great Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to you beautiful mothers out there. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. I ask that you just take a time and think about your loved ones that's lost, that's gone on before, and think about them in the good ways. Tell those good stories, because that's going to make you feel better. You know who I am. I'm Dr. Kre. I'm your board-certified family medicine physician, and I specialize in what's important to you. Through my Dr. Kre Me Show, I help you learn how to live healthier, happier, whole lives. Take care of yourselves. Love a little harder on yourselves. And if you're a wife, get to my website, www.drkre.com. That's DOCTORKRE.com/wifeology. Check out the wife conference. If you're a wife, Carnisha, we're having a wife conference, and that's all we dealing with: stress. Getting over our stress and enjoying, relaxing, and learning. It's June 22nd through the 24th at the Tutwiler Hotel in Birmingham, Alabama. I'm sorry that this seems so disjointed tonight. Somebody's blowing my phone up. That means I have to run. Thank you so much. Have a good night.